What's up? How's everyone doing? Surprised I got that out, to be honest. We're so first thing of note, we're a little under the weather. I will say we have the Dutch head cold,
the post-travel
sickness that we always seem to get.
Which will take over the during travel.
Yeah, 100%. Because I've been sick at Disneyland before. It was not my favorite thing.
But if you notice our voices a little raspier,
they may come in and out every once in a while, but we are feeling much, much better than we did last week.
We're feeling well
so
enough.
So good thing that we pushed it by a week to join
We really want to talk about our experience.
We do.
At these two parks.
And we can't put it off forever because...
we didn't want to put it off. So you'll just might have to deal.
I have a tendency to when I get sick, I just stay kind of I get better and then I just stay at that 80% for 3 weeks. So I'm not going to put off a live stream for 3 weeks. So thank you all for joining us. Please excuse any coughs or sniffles every once in a while, but we're genuinely feeling okay.
Yeah. We feel good. Our bodies are just catching up how we feel.
Kaylee is in, of course. Kaylee is about to head off on some travels of her own, so we appreciate you joining. But hopefully you're multitasking, Kaylee, because I know you got a lot on your plate.
We'll make sure to answer that question.
We will make sure to answer your question.
We're not going to get ahead.
John's vlog. What's up, John?
Hi, thanks for
Good
joining.
to see you. I know John is a big fan of Kaylee's work as well, so if we've
and Kaylee's been cranking out those.
Kaylee has been cranking out vlogs lately, so make sure to check her out as well. 2 tickets. Chad and Vanessa never miss an episode, and we love them for it.
They always remind us that, we do have audio. Which
Listen,
is good.
I would rather be reminded than not reminded because the one time we didn't have it, it for 5 minutes.
We are scarred.
Which 5 minutes sounds like a really brief window, but when you only do an hour,
Wasn't that the very first live stream? That we didn't have sound?
Hey, I would 100% take the tendency to never get sick over the tendency to get sick a little. But I would also take the tendency to only get sick a little after every travel over getting sick in the middle of everything.
Yeah, we're good.
John's got content too, y'all.
Yes.
Check out John's vlog.
Spread the love, guys. Support each other. That's
all
what
right.
We're here for.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Am I crazy or is my hat crooked? Because I feel I am, but also I can't tell because everything's mirrored.
Washed?
No, it's the one that I sat on the airplane.
Oh yeah, you did sit on it.
It's probably a little crooked. It's got me crazy. All right, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it go for the benefit of y'all. We got a lot to talk about tonight, and hopefully our voices will hold out for it. But before we get started, we do have socials. The Real Tim and Katie on Instagram. I think everyone on here knows this already, but I'm just gonna throw it out there into the ether in case anyone who finds it later is not following us. The Real Tim and Katie on Instagram is where we do our best work, aside from YouTube, of course. Tim and Katie on Facebook is a supplemental outlet where most Instagram stuff winds up going. If you really want to keep up with us on the day-to-day, see where we're going, see what we're doing, get a kind of an advanced look at what vlogs might be coming along, Instagram's the way to do it. And then, of course, we have a website as well, which is almost up to date thanks to Katie and her hardworking blog posts. The blog posts weren't working hard. Katie worked hard to get blog posts out.
I made blog posts.
They're almost up to date. We'll be up to date by tomorrow and then immediately thrown out of date again by Thursday, I'm sure. I will also say, while we were away in the Netherlands, a brand new social media program launched. Maybe you all have heard of it. It's called Threads. I wouldn't have bothered, to be honest, except for that Instagram made it very, very easy for me to carry over all of my bio and personal information, like everything that I needed to set up an account. It just like ported it all over. So we're on Threads now too. We're the real Tim and Katie on Threads, same as our Instagram account. So if you're interested, if you're on Threads, follow us. I try to post different stuff there, and sometimes more candid stuff, often more angsty stuff. You get to see a little bit of the Tim and Katie you don't see on Instagram or Facebook.
It is the new Twitter, right?
It is basically, yeah, that's what I just want to, it is basically new Twitter. I just want to use it as Twitter and just put it out there like, I had a bad bagel today. There we go.
A little more controversial, I guess.
Not that much more, but you know, I try to mix it up.
Maybe some hot takes on Threads.
Hot takes is a good way.
That's how I'll describe it.
So, having said all of that, I know what you all want to see, and we'll get right into it. So, we went to the Netherlands, you guys. Not specifically any one place. We went to the Netherlands. Like, we traveled all over the place. It's a pretty small country. We had 2 targets in mind when we planned the trip. And what we tacked on after the fact was Amsterdam. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 2 things we planned the trip for. Because, as it turns out, there was a lot to do and see in Amsterdam, too. And not only that, but we learned a lot on this trip, too. We learned a lot about Dutch culture, about Dutch cooking, about Dutch language. Like, we wanted to share all of that, too. And honestly, we thought that if we tried to do all of that at once,
it would be like 3 hours.
It would be a 3.5 hour. Yeah. And also, this is a Tuesday night. I don't know how many of you work. We work. We're going to have to get up in the morning. So we didn't want to be up super late. And it deserved its own kind of live stream breakout. So what we're going to be talking about tonight are the theme parks. Efteling and Toverland are the 2 theme parks that we visited overseas. I honestly, like, spoiler alert, they were incredible, and I hate every American theme park forever now. Not really, but almost. Like, they just do not measure up. They do not measure up to the overseas theme parks, and we've only done 2. Imagine what we have left to discover out there. But man, incredible experiences at both parks. One significantly bigger and better known than the other, but both on the same, honestly, in my mind, on the same tier in terms of like must do, must rides, must experience. I have so much to say, so I think we should probably just move along. But Efteling and Toverland are the 2 theme parks we visited, so we're going to be covering those tonight. We may be bouncing back and forth as one of us has a coughing fit and the other wants to talk. But we'll get through what we can.
We both have a lot to say.
We do both have a lot to say. So the way we're going to do this, I think, makes most sense to take you through kind of chronologically where we started, how we got there, what we did, and then on to the next park, how we got there, what we did, where we stayed. So I think we're going to start at the beginning, and the very beginning leads us to a small plug for our friend Ajana Claire, who booked all of this for us, planned the trip for us. We told her what we wanted to do, what we wanted to see.
She gave us the plan.
She built an entire itinerary around that, even though, personally looking at it from her view, I'm sure she thought we were being absolutely ridiculous. She planned out the perfect trip for us. So if y'all are interested in planning something with Ajana Claire, she is Aces. She is a great travel agent. She has her own company. Look up Ajana Claire Wise Travel. I forgot to put it in the description because I did all this very frantically, but I'll try to include it moving forward in the description for the next one, and I'll add it later on. Definitely check her out, is what I'm getting at. She did a great job. And so it begins.
Maybe I should take over for a little bit.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine. I will get there. So, I will start at the beginning of the trip now, and that leads us to our very first experience with United Airlines. I have nothing against United Airlines, let me say that. We don't have a whole lot of international travel experience. In fact, independently, without someone else planning the trips for us, we have none. So
well, that's wholly untrue.
No, without someone planning the trip for us?
I think we have but we both have a lot of international travel experience, but not as adults, I would say.
Without someone planning the trip for us?
I guess so.
You talk a lot of crap for someone who doesn't know what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. I was focused on that we don't have a lot of. I sounded like you said we had never traveled overseas.
You don't listen to me.
I'm trying to listen to you, but I pity your crackling voice.
You don't listen to me.
Sounds like it wants to die.
All right, it's not that bad. I will take a coffee. There.
Off
I'm
to
in.
a great start.
United Airlines. So I will say, we have nothing against United Airlines. To take it back to where I was, we have very little travel experience outside the United States. Independently planning our own trips, being responsible for our own itineraries, we have none. Which means when we fly domestically, we're almost always leaning on a domestic airline, like Southwest. Southwest is probably our go-to. It's not the best by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not the worst, and it's reliable, and it's the devil we know. United was the devil we didn't know. So all things considered, once we got on the plane, not a bad flight. We got a direct, thanks to Jeanne Claire, she booked us. We were able to get from Dulles Airport, which is in DC, all the way to Amsterdam direct. It was about 45 minutes.
I think it was even less than, they said it was.
Well, coming back, it was less, but going there.
I think it was even shorter. We did leave late, though.
We did leave late.
I think it was probably 7-8 hours.
We left late because the crew that was supposed to be on our plane hadn't arrived from the previous plane. So the previous plane was delayed, which delays our
all
flight.
the time on
Yeah,
Southwest
and it's
too,
not a big deal because, you just kind of anticipate flight delays. However, this was an overnight flight. So when you leave a little bit later, you get there a little bit later in the morning arriving instead of when you're flying domestic, you're changing time zones. You maybe add 3 hours.
Increase your travel time because if you count sitting in the airport not being able to do anything is travel time.
Correct. But more what I'm getting at is the fact that because we left a little later, got there a little earlier, the whole world's awake and ready to start their day by the time we touched down.
Well, that was going to happen regardless.
We were going to get there at 5 in the morning. We got there at
honestly,
7 in the morning.
Getting there at 7 in the morning was probably better.
Maybe. Probably better for our transportation on the other side.
But better for our transportation, better for our brains that wanted to die by 3 p.m.
Yeah, we'll get there. So I will say, too, one of the issues we did have with United, Southwest, we're used to, you can kind of pick your own seat. It's open seating. So when you get on the plane, you just run around and pick whatever seat you want. You pay to get on the plane a little earlier. It's a very simple process. But United, we actually paid to sit together. We upgraded to an area where we had 2 seats right next to each other. And that was a complete wash. Because what happened was, the last minute, the plane changed, and the computer split everyone apart. So there were other people on our plane that also had paid to sit together and then got broken apart and were winding up seating across the plane from their families and whatnot. We were lucky because we were able to talk to the gate agent and wind up right next to each other again. But on the way back, we weren't so lucky and had to do some negotiating. So that happened twice on the United flights. I'm not wholly excited to fly United again. Probably we'll be looking into a different airline the next time we fly. Again, the actual flight was fine, but getting onto the plane and then getting back onto the plane on the other side, both times a little bit chaotic. So for anyone looking to fly internationally, beware of United in the sense that your upgrades aren't worth much unless you're upgrading all the way to first class. That's the only way your seat is safe. So we spent about $200 we're not getting back.
Unfortunate.
But that was really where our kind of our only negative of the trip, as far as I'm aware, was.
Yeah, I mean, hardly a negative.
We have pretty much nothing but good things to say from this point forward. So I wanted to throw that in there so you all know, because it's part of the story, and you're not going to get that in our vlog because honestly, we were so jet lagged, we just decided not to vlog the travel day. But that's what happened. We flew overnight. We didn't sleep at all. Might have grabbed 30 minutes here or there. We hit the ground and we started running. So where did we start running to? We start running to Efteling. We landed at Amsterdam. I can't pronounce it right. Schiphol. It's got the in it, but it's not.
Oh, it's not Schiphol. It's Schiphol. You have to. Honestly, you should be better at trying to say it with your voice all cracky, but I don't know.
You're not helping my self-esteem.
I'm trying to say you've got the right foundation to get that Dutch pronunciation right.
The infamous Dutch. So we flew into Amsterdam Schiphol.
No, it was worse. It sounded like a cartoon character.
You sound like a cartoon character.
I wish I was.
So we were collected by our new friend, Laszlo. Works for Amsterdam Experiences. Now, they did simplify a lot of this trip for us. The Netherlands are not huge, So you can get pretty much anywhere you need to go in the country by car or by bike if it's even more local than by car.
I would say by train.
By train faster,
car.
But car will get you anywhere.
Yeah, but not everyone has a car. A lot of people take the train.
I'm talking about people who are traveling internationally.
Well, some of them might take a train.
Some of them might. You can get anywhere you need to go. Honestly, you can get anywhere you need to go from Amsterdam, because Amsterdam Airport is not just an airport. It's an airport, it's a bus station, it's a train station, it's everything. You can rent cars there, you can drive from there. Everything you need is at that one Amsterdam airport. What we needed to do was connect with our driver, because what Jean-Claire had done for us was connect us through Amsterdam Experiences, which is a touring agency, and she booked us drivers literally all over the country. So we're zipping back and forth between all these different locations. Every time we do that, someone is driving out to meet us, pick us up, and driving us where we need to go and dropping us off. And all of our drivers, by the way, were lovely. Our first driver was Laszlo. We actually had him twice. We had a British driver, Chris, once. And then our guides were also booked through the same company for bike and canal tours, which are literally like bike. We did every kind of transportation except train. And the bike tours were led by Vincent. You go by Vincent,
yep,
and not Vinny, and Charlie, who were magnificent all on their own. We'll save their stories for the Amsterdam and Dutch Culture live stream. Laszlo picked us up at Amsterdam, took us straight directly to Efteling. It was about an hour and a half, and he talked to us the whole way. Spoke very fluent English, as almost everyone in the Netherlands does. By the way, I got a lot of questions about the language barrier. There really isn't one unless you believe there is one. If you learn a couple Dutch phrases, you can really impress the Dutch, and they're very excited and happy that you took an interest in trying to learn. Most people just go speaking plain English, and they're fine. Everyone that we spoke to at Efteling, at the Efteling Hotel, in Toverland, at Sevenum, I would say Sevenum and Toverland was like that was where the loosest possible English speaking.
Yeah.
That what's the word I'm looking for? Like embracing of English was probably lesser there.
Well, honestly,
but everyone still spoke it.
Sevenum is actually, well, maybe we should wait till we get to Toverland to talk about this, because we're in Efteling right now.
We're in Efteling right now. No, it's fair point. But there is no language.
Also, I think we're saving more of like the Dutch culture and what we learned about Dutch culture for like the next live stream anyway, because there's so much to talk about the theme parks themselves. And
I will caution that there will be some redundancy between these two live streams, because there's certain things I can't talk about without talking about other things. It took us about an hour and a half to get to Efteling. Laszlo, our driver, was incredible. Pulled us right up to the doorstep of the Efteling Hotel. So I will say right now, there are 3 Efteling resort properties. You couldn't call them resorts. This one is more of like the actual standard hotel, and this is the primary. This is the original.
What's the third? What's the third one?
It's the village, and then the campground.
It's like Bosrijk.
That's the village.
Oh, okay.
Efteling Village, Bosrijk, or whatever, is the same thing.
Oh, okay. So there is a campground that's separate.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the campground was attached to Bosrijk.
It might be, but it's considered a separate building.
Okay.
So those are the 3 different kinds of resort.
We stayed here.
There's about to be 4, by the way, and that will be covered not in the most recent vlog we dropped, but the next vlog. So if you're not paying attention, if you're not subscribed, make sure to do that, or you'll miss important information. But we stayed at the fanciest, schwankiest property, the original property, and we stayed in an absolutely mind-blowing room.
Excellent suite.
There are 4 big top-tier suites at the top floor of the hotel. That elevator, we'll get to the elevator. Top floor of the hotel, there were 4 schwanky suites on the very top floor. They're all basically the turrets of the castle. So we had a turret to ourselves. Top left is the size of our bed, which was basically king size, but it was 2 doubles pushed together, and that's how they made it king. Because European bed sizes are slightly different. We also, I don't know if you can see it with us on top of it, so let me, there you go. We had a, jacuzzi tub in there, which was special for us. Whirlpool, there we go, that's the word I was looking for. And then we had you can't really see it from the images I chose because it was tough to fit everything in there.
Well, it's so hard to get a picture of the scale of the room.
Bottom right, we actually had an open air shower, which is very European. That's consistent with a lot of like other hotels in Europe. It's not like you walk in the shower and you close the door. Like the shower is part of the bathroom, and
Like the whole bath, there was
it
no
flows
like,
into the middle of the bathroom.
there was a closed off toilet and sink, but the like tub, the shower, that kind of vanity area was all, you know, opening into the suite, which had its pros and had its cons.
The con was it's much colder in
When you
the Netherlands in the summer than it is here in the summer to begin with.
In general, you turn off the shower, you step out into a room, it's kind of cold. We're more used to like a shower being either closed off in its own bathroom or whatever. Right. So you kind of had to prepare.
Take for granted how much steam builds up while you're in the shower. So when you step out, even if you have the towel right there, because there were like, you know, we actually gave us bathrobes and slippers too.
Yeah, it was so fancy.
All that was right there, but I was still like crossing from the shower area to where they were hung up was like, like every second was like, I'm freezing.
You just started putting your clothes like right there on the corner of the vanity because you were like, I am not crossing this entire.
I was not playing.
Desert of cold. Anyway,
we do have a vlog coming out on the Efteling Hotel. It was one. I think it was the only hotel vlog we shot on this trip, mostly because we were doing so much like packing. But we stayed at the Efteling Hotel for a while, so we were able to crank out a vlog for that one, and that will be coming. So I don't want to spend too much time on the Efteling Hotel.
Not pictured in this picture. It is covered in that vlog, but I did want to point out we had a little mini bar. And it was included with the room, so anything we ate was filled.
That was a big difference from any other hotel I've ever been to. The mini bar was complimentary, and they kept stocking it.
Yeah, I still have some snacks, and I think we just ate the last of the chocolate that was from that room. So our maid service were lovely.
They weren't maids; they were water lilies.
Yes, the magical
Every time they came, they left a note saying, "The water lilies have visited your room." Yeah. And your minibar is restocked.
Yeah, so
it was magical.
That was very. That was just a very fun thing that I've never got to experience before. So.
And I will say too, Ajana Claire did book this for us, knowing that we were celebrating our anniversary on this trip. So it could be that not everything we experience is part of the standard package.
I don't know.
And we would never know that.
Cold.
But.
Bucket of champagne sitting on the bed. Actually, I think it was a cava if you're fancy like that. But anyway, the sparkling wine sitting on the bed. I don't know if that's a standard when you book the Excellent Suite or if they knew we were kind of pre-gaming for our anniversary or not. You know, this is our trip. This was our before anniversary officially trip. And then when I finished that champagne,
they put another one in. They refilled all the
the
champagne and they refilled like all the grapes and everything that they had put in that bucket.
I only had one night to drink this bottle, and I did my best.
You did your best. You did not kill it. Yeah. I helped a little bit, but I'm not as big a champagne guy as I am like a sparkling cider guy.
You helped a little bit.
I had a glass.
I'll give you that credit.
I had a glass.
You had a sip
of the first. I had a glass. I drank a glass of the first bottle, but only the first bottle. I did not help with the second. So, if you're looking for a place to stay at Efteling, as of this year and next year, you will have many to choose from, but we highly recommend the Efteling Hotel. Yeah. After our next visit, we may have other recommendations to make as well. Yeah. So let's talk about Efteling itself. So this is Baron 1898, and what you'll see in this slideshow is not a whole lot of like text substance because it's mostly going to be all our favorite stuff. So when we arrived at the Efteling Hotel, as part of our itinerary, we had booked 3 park days. That was the plan. When we booked everything, when we said we're going to stay at the Efteling Hotel, we're going to go into the park 3 days because we were like, we know it's a big park. We've never been before. We want to take it slow. We want to soak it in. Let's set aside 3 days to explore the park. Well, we get there. We're jet lagged. We haven't slept. We've been awake for almost 24 hours. We haven't felt it quite yet because as you touch down in a brand new place, looking forward to new adventures and all of that, the sun's up, I'm up. I'm thinking about all the adventures we're going to have, running on adrenaline, right? So we get there. We walk up. We speak to the concierge, who became a good friend of ours by the end of the trip.
Yeah, we saw her several times.
And she speaks fluent English, so we didn't have any trouble like understanding her. We were talking about, can we, check in yet? Is it possible? I know we're really, really early. It's only about 10 o'clock in the morning by the time we get there. She says, well, check-in is at 4. You can try checking in around like 3 or 3:30, but I don't think it's going to be ready any earlier than that. And we're like, okay, is there a place to store our luggage? And, just kind of walk around. She's like, you can go to the park. We're like, what? You can go to the park? And I was like, well, we only have 3 days of tickets. She's like, no, every day you're here.
Yeah.
You can go into the park.
And checkout day.
Check-in day and checkout day included. So we're like, we can, and it's raining. So not everything is open. And she did warn us about that not everything was going to be open. It was
light drizzle.
It got heavier and then it got light and then it got heavier.
It was nothing like
light.
a Florida summer storm.
No, it was not even remotely comparison.
The other thing she pointed out was there weren't a lot of food options for like lunchtime. We're kind of limited at the hotel.
Well, kind of. I don't want to spoil too much for our Efteling hotel vlog, but she did, when she said, as far as lunch and dinner, your only options are the bar and making a reservation. And she was like, and the bar has a pretty limited menu.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. The bar had an amazing menu.
Yeah, but the bar was the only thing. There was no lunch. The restaurants were not open.
Correct.
It was literally only the bar. And she said, but there's plenty of food in the park.
Yeah.
So she graciously helped us get our luggage into the area that the closet, basically like a small
it's like a luggage. They have a luggage closet instead of a luggage.
We would use our room keys to get it into later, and we followed the cute little fairy or troll or whatever footprints to our exclusive entrance to Efteling, which they say is a 5-minute walk. If you're an adult.
2 or 3 at most.
And you are capable of walking at a decent pace. Yeah, you're there in 3 minutes or less.
Yeah.
It's so close.
Efteling, the entire park is set into a forest. So like everything in the Netherlands is pretty flat. This forest is basically grown up all around the park. So you literally enter a magical forest to visit the park. And connecting, like there's a little, what do you call it, a garden walk? Between the hotel and you go under a little garden archway, and then you follow little fairy footprints, and then as soon as you enter the forest, you're there. And I will say this too, I am just unbelievably envious of Dutch theme parks because they don't have to worry about any of this. I'm not going to lean too heavy into the differences between American and Dutch politics, culture, government, all of that, because we want to talk about the fun stuff. But in the Netherlands, you just walk right in. There is no security. Like there is nothing.
Well, they verify your admission, but then that's
they do. Yeah, they scan your ticket.
And they say,
I have a backpack, and I'm thinking like you're gonna need to check my GoPro, make sure because I'm doing on-ride filming. You're gonna check my harness. No, none of that. At the very least, I thought they would check the camera. They didn't. They didn't ask to see my bag. Everyone walks in with backpacks, bags, whatever they have, and they just go enjoy the park. It's like an entirely different culture, and that is something that like I do appreciate security in American theme parks. Don't get me wrong.
Because we need it.
We need it. But in the Netherlands, like there's so much more social responsibility as a whole. There's no need to check everyone all the time. If there's a problem, they solve it. Believe me, there is security in the park. There's no security at the gate. There's no like wanding people. All they do is scan your ticket and then they say, have a nice day. And then you walk in.
Yeah.
And they mean it. They mean have a nice day.
It was slightly disconcerting at first, only because we're so used to going through the ringer to enter a theme park, which again is necessary in the United States for reasons that we will not get into. But after that, just learning more about what Dutch culture, the country is like, how it runs, it was like, oh, this makes complete sense. So once that culture shock was over with.
One other difference, because I know a lot of people too were asking about, I know in European theme parks, there's a lot more open, like, what's the word? Like, you're used to American theme parks where like smoking areas are designated. In European theme parks, much less so. There's a lot more open smoking.
But
at Efteling and Toverland both, they had designated smoking areas. So if you're worried about that, that was the thing.
Can't say that there's designated
Katie
smoking
Reed.
areas. Hi, Katie.
What's going on? Thank you for joining. You will have a nice day. That's what they said.
Yeah.
You do have a nice day when they mean it when they say have a nice day. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right, culture shocks aside, we walk into the park, immediately taken back by everything that's going on around us. It's a whole world of like fantasy. Honestly, like if Efteling has a theme, it's fantasy.
Yeah.
Not so much magic as fantasy. And there is some magic involved in the fantasy, but like everywhere you go uses or leverages some myth or fantasy element. And there is nothing that is an exception to this rule.
Yeah.
So the first thing we saw when we walked in was Vogelrock?
Vogelrock.
Bird rock.
Actually, I can't figure out what rock means. I tried to translate
I've tried translating it too, and it
didn't-
always comes through as rock.
Yeah.
So,
So bird something.
any Dutch that are watching, please let us know what Vogelrock actually translated to. I know Vogel is bird, but beyond that. So Baron 1898 is another one that is, you wouldn't think fantasy when you look at it because it's got a very like Bioshock-esque
Yeah,
like
it's
theme
kind of
to
like
it.
steampunk, industrial, but the theming is absolutely gorgeous. The whole area, it's this is a mining operation, so you're hearing like the chime of a mine cart about to go down into the depths, and there's really peppy like we're going to work music because you're supposed to be a miner getting ready to collect some gold. And then if you get to do the ride, you really get to learn about the story of Baron. But even if you're just a watcher, or you've got young kids, or this ride just isn't for you, you have to stay in the area at least a little bit just to take it all in. The music is great. You can even hear the sounds of the wailing women from outside. Honestly, it was one of our favorite areas, and we did spend kind of a lot of time there when we did go there. I think this was our first actual day we did Baron. The day we went in on our travel day was kind of like we were just in awe of everything.
And we wandered around and took in whatever we could. We did stand and watch Baron go for a little bit.
Yeah.
We just didn't have the time to get on it. There's no fast pass at Efteling,
Yeah.
I'll say that too. Like even if you stay at the hotel, there's no line jumping. You do get in a half an hour before everyone else does if you're a resort guest.
Mhm.
Beyond that, you're using the same queues that everyone else is over the course of the day. And there's no way to pay ahead. There's no way to pay your way in with staying at a resort.
We were told this was like Germany, which is very close to the Netherlands, if you know your geography at all, was on summer break. Their kids were out of school, but the Netherlands was not yet. So it was kind of like the start to German summer break. So the parks were busy, but honestly, the way we were warned, like, oh, don't, like, just to let you know, the parks are really busy. It was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Because
as compared to like Disney,
anyone who's been to Disney or Universal during spring break or holiday knows what a busy park can actually look like. Wait times were I think the highest one we saw was like
an hour.
55 minute.
That's the highest they got the entire time we were there.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that every ride was at 55 minutes, just like maybe the most popular.
No, and in fact, I will say,
and most of the times the wait times were inflated just like it.
Yeah, they were.
Too.
But I will say 55 minutes doesn't sound bad when you're used to Disney. We got so spoiled by the wait times over the course of our we looked at 55 and we're like, oh, that's gonna drop. Let's come back to it.
Yeah. And the other thing about Efteling that we weren't prepared for is when we're watching a lot of international theme park vloggers, mostly Theme Park Worldwide, we'll say, we got used to the concept that a lot of European theme parks have really limited hours, 10 to 6, 9 to 5. 11 to 7, something usually in that range. The Efteling was open to the public from 10 a.m. till 9 p.m.
For us, 9:30 to 9 p.m.
Yeah,
so almost 12 hours. And we did push through almost all 12 hours every day we could.
Every day we could.
Not the first day or the last day, but all 3 days.
It helped that if we needed a break, it was that short little jaunt back to our room. But we absolutely had to spend every minute we could in the park because it it was. If that was all we did, if we did 5 days at Efteling and then flew home, it would have been worth the trip.
Totally.
I'm glad that we got to do more, but Efteling became such a
it's my
special place.
I've never felt more at home walking into any park than I did on like day 2 of Efteling.
Yeah.
On day 1, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. This is so incredible and amazing. Where do I go? What do I eat?
And also,
but by the time I knew what I was doing, I was like, this is my new home.
Yeah.
And I hate being so far away from it.
Yeah.
I do want to call out Katie did give us the rock as translates to big bird.
maybe so rock, bird. I mean,
Bird.
that
Big bird.
big bird. I don't know. Vocal Rock is the facade is a gigantic bird. So I don't think we have a picture of it.
Not in the slideshow, but we have it.
But you'll see it in the vlog. It's just a big animatronic bird. And it's like a prehistoric bird. It looks like one of those like dinosaur birds. I don't know.
Yeah, and this is an excellent time too to call out the fact that our day 1 vlog is already out. So you can see a lot of what we're talking about.
We're trying to fill in more of the detail and more of like our overall experience because the vlog only captures so much. So just kind of going through more and talking through more of what's on the slides. On the left here is the loading bay for Flying Dutchman or the Vliegende. Oh, no, I'm going to do that better.
Oh, I thought you were going to nail it.
The Vliegende Hollander. I got to get the G better. The Vliegende Hollander. Okay. It translates to the Flying Dutchman. I'm going to work harder on my Dutch.
If I could, make assertions for the park, Pirates of the Caribbean meets...
We have nothing like this in Disney.
I was going to say Journey to Atlantis.
Yeah, that's...
But not everyone's been to SeaWorld. But Pirates of the Caribbean meets Journey to Atlantis is probably the closest of the two. It's a water coaster, but it's very thematic. Yeah. It's much more thematic than any water coaster we have in the U.S.
Yeah. And you enter through a really cool kind of castle-y looking facade. The queue is real. Once you get inside, there is this portion of outdoor queue, but once you get inside, the queue is really cool to look at. A great soundtrack is playing. The music is fantastic. It's very like Santy.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
Shanty, but then kind of like gets a little darker and more deep and adventurous.
So I actually did look up because we didn't know this when we went, but it turns out that this ride was just recently refurbed and got an extensive re-theme for one scene in particular of that dark ride portion before we got there. And we're so glad that it did because this turned out to be one of Katie's favorite rides.
To answer Kaylee's question from long ago, this ended up being probably my number 1 ride in the park, and we did get to do it more than once. But you get on a boat, and it does start out very kind of Pirates of the Caribbean, any other like boat ride, dark ride. You have your little sea shanty going, and you're looking at boats, and then it gets darker and foggier, and then the music turns all scary, and it's very like, if you know anything about the legend of the Flying Dutchman,
So that's
what kind of plays out.
The actual published story by the park is you're a Dutch sailor leaving port, very excited about the adventure, looking forward to everything that lies ahead. You sail out past the ships of the Dutch port, which you see in the dark ride portion. You enter open water. You do see the stars in the dark ride portion for a minute and a half. And then immediately after you hit open water, you get hit by a storm that causes you to lose your way. And then you're attacked by the Flying Dutchman and several other sunken ships. Basically, they look like sirens, if you're familiar with like the siren
whatever
mythology.
Like that figurehead is on the front of a boat, that's what's like popping out.
It gets evil. Honestly, they look like weeping angels from Doctor Who to me.
Yeah,
like
they're
that's
very,
what
like,
they're
creepy.
designed to be terrifying when they look at you. And they all everything happens very quickly. All the lights, and there's thunder, and there's lightning, and there's like exploding water all around you.
Yeah.
Then you get sucked into the belly of the Flying Dutchman itself. And that becomes a lift hill.
Right.
And that takes you up to the top.
And then you hear a menacing voice say something at you in Dutch, which is probably like something like "face your doom" or something like that. It's still very scary.
And then you enter, like, it becomes a roller coaster.
Yeah, it becomes a roller coaster.
You go outside at that point, and you are flying above the queue.
And
And it just
honestly,
becomes
with how
incredible.
big these boats are, I was totally expecting it to feel way more jolty and rough, but it's a pretty smooth coaster, all things considered. Really fun. And then
It has one of the
after a
greatest
short,
soundtracks of all time.
fantastic soundtrack, you get your picture taken, and then you do a kind of controlled splashdown into the lagoon area where all of a sudden your boat becomes a boat again, and you wrap up the ride where you started it, sometimes on the opposite side. One thing we did note about Efteling, probably 99% of the rides, you take your stuff on with you.
Yep. This one included.
Very much like the Disney rule. The only one I think was Baron that you did not take your stuff with you, because that ride's just too intense. And
well, you flip upside down a couple times.
You do flip.
There's a lot of rides where you do flip upside down, and the G-force keeps your
the Python.
They
didn't have us take our bags off for that.
And
but
I don't think Boggle Rock turns out upside down, but it's hard to tell.
No, but most everything else you took your stuff with you. So that ride is fantastic. One of my favorites. We definitely got to do it more than once. The first time we did it, almost no splash at all. We were like, oh, that's not bad. And I think the very last time we did it,
we got 4 times.
A little bit more wet than we did before. So really no way to tell. It's definitely not a soaker.
It has to do with more with the weight of your boat than it does.
Yeah, and maybe slightly your positioning. But anyway.
Because we've been on front row and back row and walked off completely dry. But the last time we were in front row and we got utterly drenched.
Yeah. I wouldn't describe it as utterly drenched.
I mean, I got way wetter on Piranha, but
yeah, I would not describe it as utterly drenched.
Anyways, amazing ride, and we did release a POV of this one actually, but it's very hard to see
the dark ride,
the dark ride portion, because Efteling does allow on-ride filming, but you have to have the appropriate harness. So with the roller coasters, all roller coasters, this is the blanket rule. If it coasts and it rolls, you have to have the chest mount. So the chest mount does not do a great job of like focusing on what's going on around you, because I have to turn my whole body, and the harness is pretty secure. Like not the chest harness, but like the actual ride harness. So it's tough for me to kind of pivot around, and it would make for worse footage, honestly, if I tried to do that. It's something you have to experience. We tried to capture it a little better in our vlog, but still, I would say the best experience is getting on the ride and not watching it.
So cool.
We also, I mean, this is kind of supplemental, but we did do calmer rides too. We did pretty much every ride we could. We did the Mono Snail. In the little kids area. It's honestly called a monorail in the actual park description, but it's a snail that runs around a little track above a kids area. And it was really fun and relaxing. It went on forever. We did the boats.
These are the I think they're called the fantasy boats or something. Oh no, it was the gondoletta.
Because I'm editing that vlog right now.
Yeah. So this is
and that lasted about 25 minutes.
Outdoor boat ride. Very long track, I guess, because we did see the little like rope pulling it along in the water. So this you get to experience some more of the natural, or I guess now at this point, natural beauty of Efteling, the landscaping. There, for those of us who are fans of Disney ducks, I'm happy to report that we have
Efteling ducks.
And I even learned how to say duck in Dutch, because I wanted to, instead of saying ducky or duck, I wanted to call them, I think it's eind or ainja is for duckling.
Duckling is the ainja.
Ainja is duckling. Anyway, lots of ducks. We even noticed some people purposely brought along snacks so that they could feed the ducks. I did think that was adorable, but I do want to point out, just make sure you know what's safe for ducks to eat, because I think I read somewhere that bread is not actually the best thing for them.
The ducks don't know any better, though. They'll eat whatever.
Yeah, but I just take care of the ducks. Anyway, this was a great, kind of slow-moving, relaxing ride. There's even music playing, not on the boat, but kind of, I think it was coming from like the island in the center. So again, very relaxing, very nice, great for taking a break, great for people who maybe those more thrill-oriented rides are too intense for them. So definitely don't skip out on the like transportation kind of rides.
John pointed out we do need an Insta360 cam where we do like the whole everything around us.
Oh.
I think those in this park may not be permitted because of how they would have to
it would still have to mount on the chest.
Yeah,
right?
well, not only that, but it would have to it sticks out a bit in order to get everything around you. But it's not a bad idea for other parks, and it would have probably flown at
Definitely, it would
Toverland.
have captured that better.
I think just in general, dark rides are hard to get on GoPro, which is not the worst. The GoPro is great for roller coasters and whatnot, but anyways, we got what we got. I hope you guys are able to experience kind of a fraction of what we're able to experience through it. We also did
enthusiasm.
I will say, speaking of dark rides, that final one on the far right, that's Pardos. Pardos is the magician's assistant, who is kind of the mascot of Efteling. We had a couple seconds to meet him here and there, not just in the park but at our hotel, because he was a frequent guest at the hotel. But behind him is Symbolica, which may be the greatest dark ride ever made. If not the greatest, top five for sure. It's got everything. I mean, we talked about this in our dark rides live stream too, but 3 different paths. So you choose while you're in line which route you want to go, and that affects the ride you have. You can go the hero path, the music path, or the treasure path.
There are 3 tours of
tours.
The
Yes,
so
hero tour, treasure tour, music tour.
Music tour.
So we tried to do each one, but honestly, even when you do each one, you have a 50-50 chance of being in the interaction seat, which is the front row, or the back seat, because you can't request row, you can't pick row. So you just get in the line and they assign you as they assign you. It'll take a couple ride-throughs for you to get every possible combination of the ride. And we did this in total 6 times. We did not clear everything. We did every tour, but we did some tours more than once, and we did I think we were only interaction seat once.
Yeah.
Which fortunately we were able to use for the vlog, because that turned out great. But when you're in the interaction seat, it takes you through the same ride, but it allows you at different points to kind of choose the direction you go. It allows you to engage with interactive elements. Like on the hero tour, for example, it's 2 suits of armor fighting each other. That's the Symbolica. That's the symbolic representation of heroes. In the music tour, in the music tour, it's you're playing instruments, and you have to hit the things repeatedly to get the musical instruments to play.
A combination.
A combination turns into an orchestra. It's really, really cool. And it has, in addition to this interaction, it has water effects. It's trackless. It spins. It dances. It's like Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railway if it was 1,000 times better and more interactive than it is.
I mean, it is literally I don't even think there's any screens in there. The only screen there, okay, that's not true. There were a little bit of screens when you're looking in the mirror and playing with stuff. But other than that, 99% practical effects. So I don't even think I can compare it to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, because the amount of screens that are used in that ride is atrocious.
It's true. There's virtually no screens in this ride.
Except for the fact that they're both trackless, that's pretty much the only thing that's the same. Wonderful soundtrack.
And they spin around the ballroom. That's what made me think of it.
Wonderful soundtrack. Wonderful effects. Some of the most beautiful and intricate dark ride scenes.
And animatronics. There's so many animatronics in this ride. It's as Katie said, there's not many screens. It's all practical effects. And honestly, even the queue and the opening, the pre-show.
Honestly, one of my favorite effects, which is probably very simple, was just this spell book turning pages by itself. Probably very simple and easy, but it looked so cool. So I love that.
Yeah, we've done this ride enough times to know the layout almost exactly, but we would still do it 70 more times.
I mean, the next time we go, we'll notice different things, because
there's a lot to look at.
There's so much to look at.
This wasn't the only dark ride in the park either, or the only dark ride that we did. One of my favorites was Dream Flight, which is, I'm gonna try again. Drumflucht.
Drumflucht.
It's not drum. It's not drum. It's drum.
Oh, Drumflucht.
Drumflucht.
Dreamflight.
It's one of the hardest ones of all the rides. It's one of the hardest to pronounce in Dutch, because it's got all the consonants possible in the Dutch alphabet come at the end. But Dreamflight is what it translates to. This is an expedition into fairyland, basically. It's sort of similar to Peter Pan's Flight, if you're familiar with that. You hang, you don't come from the bottom
Yeah.
up until the
track
end.
is above you. Your vehicle
Suspended
suspended
flight through fairyland. And it's not just fairies, it's trolls too, or gnomes, whatever they happen to be. And you basically go through a couple different vignettes with smells, sights, sounds, beautiful music, water features. Honestly, it's very similar to E.T. in that regard. It might be more similar to E.T. than it is to Peter Pan's Flight, now that I think about it. But it's so peaceful, so relaxing. You just want to get on it and float away. And honestly, a lot of the time when we did our half an hour early entry, we would go straight there and do this like 3 times. This line
does back up, even though it moves pretty quickly.
It's an omni-mover, except when someone needs help. Yeah.
Kind of like the rest of the omni-movers we know. But honestly, it was even like the scene at the very beginning, it's like these like moving castle things, and then at some point there's like a space castle, and I'm still like trying to figure out how they do this stuff. Like, it looks like it's floating. How? I mean, there's got to be wires and stuff, but it's so magical.
It's like the bending pencil trick.
It's so magical. It's hailed as one of the best dark rides in the world, and we definitely agree. We have to see more dark rides to know for sure, or to make our own formal ranking, but definitely was worth the like 7 times we rode it over the 5 days.
I mean, I could ride it 100 more times and not see everything.
Oh, and part of their summer, because their summer Efteling had just kicked off, where Tim is sitting on the pretty
fairy garden,
was this this structure is not permanent. I think they only bring it out for the summer or for special fairy time. That sounds
special fairy time.
We don't have a picture of it, but there were costume characters as the fairies on the ride.
I don't have a picture of it in the slideshow, but I did post it to Instagram and Threads.
And I think we got videos for a day 2 vlog, I think.
We did not. That is a lie.
That is not true. I guess I'm telling lies.
I did take some video. Honestly, it didn't turn out super well because one thing that is a little bit different at Disney, and I'm using Disney as an example because there's so many characters to me. At Disney, adults stand in line for a character meets all the time. And there is like a formal line, right? So you're trying to meet a character, you're just waiting your turn, you step up. In the Dutch theme parks, by our experience, on this trip alone, that's all we have to go by. It seems that the idea that adults want to meet characters is kind of like, what are you doing? So like, no one assumes that the 2 of us are standing in line, especially for the fairies where there is no designated line. It's just a mess, and everyone's trying to like step up and take their next picture. We
did queue up for that Pardos picture.
We did.
No one like gave us weird looks.
It's not no. It's not that they were like hostile about it. It's that they just assume that we weren't in line. So like constantly they would be putting Dutch children in front of us, like moving people in front of, and it was really difficult to meet the fairies. So when we met them, I wasn't filming. I was just snapping photos as much as possible. Yeah. So we didn't get a whole lot of great video of meeting the fairies, but there are fairies in that area.
Yeah, and actually on the top of that like pole that looks like it's behind him was actually like a little swing, where a fairy would come up and swing at the top, which you can't really tell, but in the center photo, Tim's got a picture of a fairy on a swing, a plant swing. Yeah. So it was reminiscent of the ride. The fairy outfits were so cute. They all had like a different color pattern or color scheme. And
there was the red fairy, the green fairy, the blue fairy, and the pink fairy.
And like they had these little like almost like cowgirl looking boots. So cute. And when we did interact with them, they were lovely. So I don't want you to like.
And I tricked them into thinking I spoke Dutch because I only spoke small Dutch.
We don't want to discourage people from approaching characters because you're not going to get like turned away. You just kind of have to throw yourself in front of
you
children
have to be assertive,
which I'm used to doing at Disneyland anyway for the roaming characters. So
you have to be assertive, and you have to make it clear that you're intending to meet this character as an adult, which is difficult for an introvert to do. But And it's even harder, I think, when you don't speak the primary language because you can't like explain yourself very well. But you know, people get the gist. And the fairies are very happy to meet whoever. So I don't want to say like it's frowned upon or anything like that. It's very much not. It's fun to meet characters. We love meeting characters, but the fairies were in high demand.
Oh, funny story that's definitely not in the vlog. Actually, on our first Efteling.
Real quick, I just want to, before we move on, that we're going to talk about next week, actually, because we did learn a lot of history about Amsterdam and about the Dutch and how they impacted overseas culture during our bike tour. So that is 100% accurate. That part of Manhattan was Dutch settlement.
Yep.
Anyway.
Amsterdam. When we were there on our first day and it was a little bit rainy, we were kind of caught in the rain at some point. And we ended up kind of huddled under this tree that was providing us, because we had umbrellas, I think. Or ponchos, we just opted not to bring them with us because we're dumb, I guess. So we were under this tree, and all of a sudden, like around the corner came 3 obviously costume characters with no handler, no I was about to say cast member, no team member with them or anything. They just came strolling up and stood under the tree with us. And there was like this fairy and like a hat. We think she may have been a water lily.
I do have a reel, or not a reel, but it could be a reel someday. I have a vertical video from my phone of that. That's all I got because I couldn't get the camera.
And this like night character from their dinner show, whose name might be Joost. I can't remember. And
I thought it was Roost.
No, that's a city in Germany, I thought.
Not Roost, but Roost.
Oh, I have no idea.
Ah.
And then like, was it it was like kind of like a Aladdin looking character
from Fata Morgana.
Yeah.
The Sultan.
Yeah. So
they were just like a trio of ride characters wandering
around, and they got caught in the rain, and they stood under a tree with us for a little bit, and they tried to speak to us in Dutch at first, and I was like, I really wish I could tell you. And then they were like, oh, where are you from?
Yeah,
English.
Took about 3 seconds to be like, oh, English?
Immediately spoke English to us, and then were eventually on their way. I think the fairy water lily saw someone with an umbrella and just took off and
plume.
Just started walking with this guest with their umbrella, and it was totally cute and something you might not see in an American theme park, because usually characters are escorted formally places, which is probably for the best. So moving on from that,
I mentioned the Sultan, so I had to mention Fata Morgana too. So this is a big part of our day two. Oops, this is a big part of our day 2 vlog. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on it because that vlog is ideally coming out on Thursday. But another great dark ride here at the park, and it's right towards the front. We actually didn't get to this until our formal day 3, which is day 2 of our vlog, because we entered towards the back of the park. And by the time we decided we wanted to do this every single day, this was one of the longer waits. It was up to about 35-40 minutes every time, which again doesn't sound bad, but when you have something right next to you that's 20 minutes, it's really hard to justify walking all the way over there for 35. So we finally got this on our 3rd day in the park, and then we did it a couple more times after because it was so cool. One of the largest animatronics I think I've ever seen in my life, and probably will ever see again. I won't spoil anything, but it's basically the story of a wizard or a sorcerer, I guess is the appropriate term, guiding you through the Forbidden City, and then you getting kind of caught by surprise by a djinn who's kind of pulling strings to make the city what he wants it to be. And you don't find out about, the djinn until towards the middle or the end, and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah, literally. Whoa.
So
also one of the, what Efteling does really well, they do a lot of things really well. One of the things they do really well is their on-ride music.
Soundtrack. Yep.
Is fabulous. And most dark rides do have some music, but a lot of their coasters have music and other things. Even certain scenes in the fairy
all but one of their coasters has music, actually.
Had music, and the Fata Morgana soundtrack is very catchy. We were singing it, I think, before we even started this live stream.
We were, and we'll be singing it tonight because it gets in your head and out of your head and then back in your head like an earworm. So we've covered a lot of the dark rides here. They were amazing all the way through, but Efteling is well known for its dark rides as well as its thrill rides, and I think that's a big part of what we wanted to experience.
It's also well known, which I think I just realized was not in the slideshow at all,
the
Fairy Tale Forest.
Yep, I didn't put that in there because we covered it so thoroughly in our vlog.
We did cover it in the vlog,
but it's a walkthrough attraction. It's amazing. It takes, honestly, we had set aside about 45 minutes. We wound up spending like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Because we've stopped at every single.
We had to look at everything.
It's
to learn the story.
Walk through, and it's literally a forest. So you're walking through a winding road in a forest, seeing one vignette after another, and you wait and you stop and you wait because there's scenes played out by animatronics, most of them, and they loop.
Right.
So every time you catch one in the middle, you stand there and you find yourself pulled into the story, and then the story ends, and then it resets, and you're like, oh, I haven't seen this part.
I'm going to see the beginning.
So you're standing there for like 6 minutes per vignette.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really cool.
And it's definitely, like, that was the start of Efteling. Well, the start of Efteling was even simpler than that, but that was the first, like, real fantasy, magical element.
That Efteling ever had.
And it was what the park is. Really, it's the basis for anything else you see in the park. So I'm so glad they continue to keep it up. And honestly, those animatronics and vignettes are so well taken care of. The paint is fresh. They're working. I didn't see a single one that was like, well, I guess he's not going to be long neck today. You know, they all looked like they were built yesterday.
Yeah.
And even some of them get some more updated effects. Like, we watched The Little Match Girl, and we still couldn't
That was definitely not built yesterday.
How does the smoke become the thing, and then she dreams on the smoke, and we still can't figure it out.
And I didn't put that in the vlog, I don't think, The Little Match Girl, because
it probably didn't show up on camera very well.
It didn't show up on camera very well, but it was like a Pepper's Ghost effect where she would blow a puff of smoke and then they would project stuff onto the smoke, but in a way that made it look like it was just inside the smoke. And it was honestly like, some of this stuff you have to see with your eyes, but it's incredible what they did as recently as 2 weeks ago and as far back as like the 70s.
I don't know, like the months ago, years ago, it just all looked so fresh. And you brought up Kaylee's comment that it reminds me of Pirates. It is in like mechanism and everything very similar to Pirates. It's a slow moving boat ride. You're going through like a town, you're hearing things.
No drops on this one though.
Yeah, no drops. It is very calm. It does take your picture. It takes your picture when you're not ready for it. So our pictures were always terrible.
100% of the on-ride photos at Efteling are when you're not expecting the on-ride photo.
Yeah.
Like, they don't make a whole lot of sense where they put them, but almost every ride has a photo.
Yes.
Almost every single one. Even the ones that you're like, this is surely a stupid little ride. It's not going to...
High quality. They're not crappy,
so you get a really high quality picture of you going...
like, did my picture just get taken? Oh my gosh. And one more thing about Fata Morgana, which we mentioned for other things. It smelled so good in there. It smelled like a spice market, like jasmine. It just smelled really good. And every time we rode through it, I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna be here in a moment.
You know what else smelled good?
The food.
The food!
The food was so good.
Okay, so real quick, because I could talk about this for hours, honestly, and I have with all my coworkers. But I'm going to abbreviate this down to like a 15-second soundbite. In the Netherlands, nothing has preservatives. Everything is made fresh. By like the equivalent of their FDA, like it's national law that the food has to meet a certain quality of freshness. So everything we ate, for the most part, we did all quick service this trip. And that was totally fine with us. We're expecting, when we sat down and ate at our first quick service restaurant in Efteling, we're expecting like, this is going to be okay, but it's going to keep us going, and we'll find out where the good places are to eat later.
No.
Everywhere was good. Every single place we ate was good. Whether it was like a throwaway hole-in-the-wall quick service that's tucked behind the corner. We ate food out of a freaking vending machine, and it was awesome.
So good.
Like, everything was good. So, anywhere you want to eat at Efteling is like top-notch. our favorites that we visited frequently, there's this place in the train station. It's like a bakery that has kebabs, which is pictured on the right. You can choose how spicy or not spicy you want it to be. They are fabulous.
Yeah.
All the meat is fresh, as everything else.
Those pitas are made fresh. Felt like that
almost
hour.
In front of you.
Yeah.
And on the left is a buffet line we picked from Kaatsheuvel, yeah. Restaurant Kaatsheuvel, or Kaatsheuvel restaurant, which is right towards where our
Which was kind of like
is.
an open market, grab and go, but also with a salad bar.
And there are a couple places like that where you take like grab and go on a buffet line. It's not buffets like you're expecting in America. It's like everything
like
is so
wraps that were made 2 days ago.
I think they take everything out and throw it somewhere in the back if it's not sold in like an hour, and they replace it.
I don't know what they do with the leftover food because I can't imagine everything gets sold, but you're not eating yesterday's food. You're eating food fresh from
You're not even
today.
eating 6 hours ago's food, I don't think.
It was so good. We've never eaten better in a theme park, and I've never been more
Probably
sad.
never will again.
And we're going to go to an American theme park this weekend, and the food is going to stink.
It's not going to be awful, but it's not going to be this.
It's not going to be this. It has soured everything. Eating in Efteling. Eating in the Netherlands.
And that's consistent as well, by the way, with what we ate at Toverland, which I don't think we have a slide for. Because we only had like a very quick, like...
What did we even eat at Toverland?
Nachos and ice cream.
Oh, that's right. I was like, what did we
had
eat?
Nachos and ice cream were our meal at Toverland.
So
and it was
good,
great.
though.
But that's the only thing we ate there, because Toverland actually did keep shorter hours.
Did keep shorter hours.
So, I mean, I think... Yeah, okay. So we're moving on anyway.
Yeah.
So Efteling, I would just say closing thoughts on Efteling. The most beautiful, the most atmospherically immersive, and the most heartwarming, family-friendly park that I think we've ever been to.
Yeah.
I would say second on that list would be Disneyland in California, and everything after that doesn't even come close.
Yeah. It topped everything else for our favorite theme park. Even, my beloved Animal Kingdom in Florida.
I do love Animal Kingdom.
I do love Animal Kingdom, and it doesn't quite fit the Animal Kingdom vibe to totally replace that, but it absolutely nailed and knocked everything else out of the park.
Not that expensive either.
No, especially if you're traveling all that
else.
way and then you stay on property and your admission is covered and you're getting a free delicious breakfast at your hotel.
We didn't mention that. You get free food at the hotel too.
Yeah, you get breakfast as complimentary, and we're not talking like your Hilton, day-old bread and eggs that look kind of suspicious and fruit that looks like it came out of a can. No, you're getting fresh baked bread, pancakes, bacon, eggs, a salad. I guess some Europeans
can make a
salad
salad
for breakfast. And like every jam, sauce, whatever you can think of, yogurt,
and Nutella
sprinkles.
waffles.
I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, the Dutch tradition is actually, I think it's like bread, butter, and then like chocolate sprinkles on top.
I did that once just to see what it was like. I
And
don't think I could live that way.
And their sprinkles are so tasty because they're not like our waxy kind of sprinkles. They're actually made with like cocoa. They're like actual chocolate, which means they do go bad faster, but that's again because of the lack of preservatives. Anyway, no, not that expensive because your accommodations, your theme park time, and your breakfasts are all included, and then you can eat in the park for really honestly not that much.
But even if you came for a day, I think it would. We did not purchase tickets directly through the Efteling website, right? So I can't say this definitively, but I can say for Toverland, it was, I think, 35 euro a day for the two of us, and Toverland and Efteling were very similarly priced. So I have to assume somewhere between 40 and 60 euros, which I know is a wide range, not even remotely close to what theme parks cost in America.
Something we didn't talk about, but we do talk about in the vlogs, is the park's cleanliness. Like, you think, how big it is, how many people visit. It's very clean. You will notice, unfortunately, people are people everywhere.
Well, you know why, though?
Trash in the, sitting in the water or something like that. But honestly, it reminded me of Disney in terms of their cleanliness. And also, I felt like the bathrooms were being cleaned constantly.
You know why the streets are clean in Efteling, though?
It's because of the papiers.
Because they make a game out of it.
Yeah.
They literally, and this is in our blog. This is in our blog, I think, for both days. But they have what they call papier eaters, which is paper eaters. You take all your paper products or your paper waste, and all over the park, there are characters that suck. They have big holes, and they suck the paper trash out of your hand when you get close, and then they talk to you and say thank you for feeding me.
Thank you.
So yeah.
It makes it fun to be like, I'm gonna hold, and there's also,
it does. Like, I literally was excited to have trash to throw away.
Yeah, and there are trash cans everywhere. I think they kind of hold to that rule that Disney has, where like don't make the
every
trash
15
can too
feet.
Far away. So even like in the Fantasy Forest,
Except
there was
there.
always trash cans. Yeah.
Anyway,
we could probably have done a whole 2 hours on Efteling, but we are gonna move on because we do eventually need to go to bed. So
anyone who has follow-up questions about Efteling, we do have a vlog already out. Hopefully we'll answer some. We have another vlog coming this Thursday, and then we have an Efteling hotel vlog coming next week, which will hopefully answer a lot of your questions.
Yeah.
But feel free to reach out to us on Instagram, on Threads, on whatever.
We would love to talk more about it.
I love talking about it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And we will be back.
Absolutely.
So, from Efteling,
Laszlo
came to get us again, and he was a poor guy. So the morning that we were transferring was, I think, our worst day of weather, but we didn't really feel the impact of that. Laszlo did. So in Amsterdam, the weather was considered to be what the Dutch call code red, which was basically a small hurricane in terms of wind speed.
Right.
So trains shut down. Cars were told, only leave if you absolutely have to.
Trees were falling
down. And this poor guy, he's dispatched from Amsterdam. So he pulls up right on time. We even went into the park for a couple of hours.
I think we had texted him and delayed his pickup by like a half hour or something, because we were like, we just want to enjoy a little more time.
Yeah, we just wanted to get like 1 or 2 more rides in before we sign off. So we we packed up all our stuff. We checked out of our room. We went into the park for 2 hours. Then Laszlo shows up. And he's right on time, and he's telling us all about how he drove to the
He biked to the train
station. Found out the trains weren't running. It's pouring rain. He biked back to his apartment, changed his clothes,
got in his car.
He rented a car. He
took his car to pick up the Escort.
Oh, took his car to okay.
Yeah.
So multi-leg journey. We just can't thank Amsterdam Experiences and all the guides enough, to be honest with you. So this goes for everyone. But Laszlo was a champion this day.
Yeah.
He showed up right on time, was not late by even a minute.
Thankfully, that storm is happening in Amsterdam. To give you an idea of the kind of geography, when we left Amsterdam, we headed further south to kind of middle of the country to Efteling. And then from Efteling, which is in Kaatsheuvel,
about an hour and a half
Laszlo picked us up. And we went another hour and some change south to Sevenum, which we hinted at is, we were
more
10
rural.
Minutes car ride from the German border, actually.
And I just want to say this one time, because it's not in any vlog, since we didn't know about it until we were done and had already returned. We were 49 minutes away from Phantasialand in Germany, where we were at Toverland. So that hurts, but we didn't know what we didn't know. So, spoiler alert, we are going to Phantasialand on a separate trip. So it's
happening.
It's happening. It just didn't happen on this trip.
Yeah.
So where we parked ourselves, Sevenum's a bit more rural because you are getting closer and closer to the border and further away from Dutch civilization. So it's not like it's not populated at all. There are definitely people and restaurants and stuff there, but the hotel is basically the only hotel anywhere near Toverland.
Yep.
So we stayed at the Great Sevenum, pictured here. It is the equivalent probably of the Hampton Inn range, like the Hilton low end. But it honestly felt very comfortable.
It was very comfortable.
The shower actually had a door, which was nice, which is very not European.
Seal ourselves in.
There were 2 employees that spoke very fluent English, 1 employee that spoke kind of broken English.
But
and
no problems communicating.
No problems communicating because we knew enough Dutch to get by, and also because we spoke mostly to those 2 employees. And they did give us breakfast vouchers as well.
Yes.
So breakfast not technically included as part of the hotel, but the adjacent restaurant, they said it's across the street. It's really in like a little walkway, so you don't even have to go outside to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a place literally called La Place, however you pronounce it. And it was a buffet line. So that you give them a breakfast voucher, and then you go through and you pick out whatever you want for breakfast. And then at the end, they just look at it and they're like, did you add anything that wasn't on the buffet? If so, they add it to your bill, and you're done. You eat breakfast. So very, very simple. Didn't know that was going to be a thing, to be honest. When we got there, I thought we were going to have to pay for breakfast. The only thing about this room and this hotel and this location that was a bit different from Efteling, we were, by car, would have been 6 minutes to Toverland. By foot would have been 25 minutes to Toverland. We chose bike.
Yeah.
So we had to rent bikes.
I could not discern a actual walking path to Toverland.
We were told there was one, but you're right, we couldn't find it.
We couldn't find it, and we were told bike paths are for bikes, not for walking, and that is the
gospel.
100% way to give away the fact that you're not from around here is walking on the bike path. So we did not do that. We tried, I think, for 15 minutes to see if we could summon a Lyft or an Uber to the area.
Yeah.
It was not happening.
So Uber exists everywhere, almost, not everywhere, but everywhere that we would want to travel, populated areas, you can get an Uber. Sevenum's not a populated area. So like, yes, the app works, and it did say like your driver's being contacted. No one wants to drive 35 minutes to take you 6 minutes up the road.
It wasn't happening.
So it wasn't going to happen. So we just kept getting pushed back. Finally, we rented bike. Oh, we forgot to mention early check-in.
Yeah, early check-in. So, sorry to go back, but this is an important detail.
Just put an asterisk there because this is important.
And we don't cover this in any vlog. So, when we did arrive at the Great Sevenum, we were 4 or 5 hours early for check-in time. But we said, we know we're early. Is there any place to put our luggage? And our, who was helping us was like, oh, early check-in is €20. Do you want to do that? We're like, yes, we do. So our room was ready.
Either our room was ready, or they moved us to an adjacent room that was ready. Similarly priced.
Whatever it was, we could check in early for €20, which was
phenomenal.
A dream. Not a problem.
And because of that, we were able to then, going back to renting the bikes, we were able to I think it was €20 per day.
No, it was €12.
Oh yeah, 24 for both of us per day.
Yeah.
So you could pay up front. We just booked for 2 days, and it was at about 1 o'clock Netherlands time. We took those bikes and we biked over to Toverland. So we weren't planning to hit Toverland hard. And we were wondering if we might hit Toverland at all because it was raining, and actually the hotel staff said, maybe you don't want to do it today because I can't guarantee everything's going to be open.
But I convinced us. I said, look, there's really nothing else to do over here.
There wasn't. There was a limited supply.
We could sit in our hotel room for 8 hours, but I was like, I don't mind resting, but I didn't come all the way over here to do that.
Yep.
So I was like, we should just be as much as we can and bike in the rain. And actually, honestly, our way over to Toverland really wasn't raining that much. And then we spent 4 hours in Toverland with no rain.
And those 4 hours, Toverland does close earlier than Efteling by a wide margin.
It keeps more of that 10 to 6 hours.
Yeah, and it did both days we were going was 10 to 6. And we got there, we tried to get there a little early both days. Well, not both days.
No, the second day.
The second day. We tried to get there a little early the second day. We tried to stay till close the first day.
Right.
Because we got there at 1 o'clock. So we only had a generous 4 hours in the park.
And we used that time.
In those 4 hours, I'm not kidding. In those 4 hours, we cleared every single coaster credit in the park and one dark ride and one other ride.
Yep.
And we only really had to wait for one ride the entire time we were there. It was amazing.
It was phenomenal.
It was our best theme park 4 hours ever. So
and we were already I think We didn't eat there that day. 'Cause
No.
we had grabbed lunch.
We
at
got
the
lunch
restaurant.
already, and then we were biking over, and then we biked back, and we had dinner at the same place.
Yeah. So we were fueled up. We were energized, and we were ready to take on this park.
And I will say the bike ride was only about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I timed it out to be 12 on our second day. So it wasn't bad.
No, not at all.
We weren't tired by the time we got there.
No. You kept telling me to slow down because I was all excited, and he's like, "Don't wear yourself out." And I'm
Here's the thing. Yeah, I was worried about her wearing herself out, but I was also like,
terrified.
Here's the thing about Dutch bikes. So we rent the bikes, right? We have them sitting there. Katie's like trying to explain to me how to set everything up. I'm like, I know how to ride a bike. Come on. I was a kid at one point. I've been doing bikes for 30 years. I know how to, you don't have to explain to me how a bike works. Dutch bikes are a little bit different. So I didn't crash
that day. But a pine cone was life or death for me. Every time we crossed over like an area that had like pine cones on the ground, I was like, it's a minefield! I'm gonna die! Yeah. The Dutch bikes, I guess you might be able to see it a little bit in the picture.
A little bit, yeah.
So you can kind of see they're pretty tall, and all Dutch people are tall. I'm sorry, that's probably a stereotype, but I feel like it's the truth.
But they are.
And we had to lower the seats comfortably. Their bike wheels are kind of thinner. Like we both grew up on like
sport bikes,
Trek sporty bikes with flat handlebars and really thick tread wheels. So these are a little more like classy, I would say.
These are the dignified
and
bikes.
The handlebars, rather than being like straight across, like we're used to be, really curve and tight. So you're kind of
It's as I said, the turning radius is about 30% of that of an American bike. So every time you nudge it slightly to the right, you're going a hard right. Like it takes practice to be able to navigate with a bike that tall, that seating that high, even if the seat drops.
But like this ended up being honestly a blessing, because first of all, I was living my best life biking to a theme park. So I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. I am getting on a bike.
Forget the helicopter tour in Hawaii.
Theme park. Well, okay.
Recently,
it was the coolest thing I ever did. But also, oh my gosh, that you've mentioned Hawaii, and I totally threw me off my groove.
Sorry.
You threw off my groove.
I'm sorry. You've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
Throw me off. It was really a blessing because I had requested a biking tour of Amsterdam, which we will cover more fully in the next live stream. But this really did give us an opportunity to get back on the horse, so to speak, because both of us have not been on a bike in a while, and kind of get used to like kind of Dutch biking culture. They do have dedicated bike paths almost everywhere, which was great. So kind of get used to that and get comfortable before we spent 4 hours, on bikes in a much busier city. It is
very difficult to bike in Amsterdam if you don't know how to bike on Dutch bikes.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And we'll get to that next time.
But we did it. We made it to
This was good practice.
It was fantastic. And I think we're going to get into, that's Toverland.
Yeah. So Toverland is a much smaller park than Efteling, but it's not small. It's probably honestly, I think about the size of Hershey Park.
That's probably fair.
Like probably by the time you canvas the whole area, it is the only area that is not connected to the rest of the park right now is Avalon. And the reason Avalon's not connected is because they just expanded it and pushed it out a little bit further.
Falls off a little bit on the map.
It's so if Efteling is themed to fantasy, Toverland is themed to magic. Yeah. Like it's very.
Like I just learned today, typing in Toverland, that Tover is Dutch for magic.
Yeah.
So it's Magic Land.
And everything about Toverland is magical. It has some basis in magic. Everything from the River Rapids ride, which wasn't bad, but not good. Had animatronics like trolls and gnomes that were like guiding you along the forest path, which was pretty cool.
Avalon is themed.
Avalon is dragons, like
but it's kind of like
it's Merlin, a land. Yeah, it's a land where wizards and dragons and unicorns live in harmony.
Phoenix.
Yeah, and we'll get to Phoenix too, because Phoenix is Phoenix was pretty solid.
Phoenix is the wing coaster that we were.
Vanessa, if you're still on, this was your baby.
Yeah.
We have plenty of footage to release a POV of Phoenix, and we will. I try to tether the POVs that we release to the upcoming or just been published vlogs where I can. So I've been holding back all the Toverland POVs for the Toverland vlog, or to like bookend it a little bit. But we have a lot of POVs to release from Toverland because they actually had a much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Liberal on-ride policy. Basically, the wrist mount was fine for everything. So we not only have POV of everything, we also have rider cam of everything, which makes for a more interesting and dynamic vlog, in my opinion. Some rides at Efteling were like that too, but the roller coasters in particular, you could only have the chest mount. Here, you could have the wrist mount on everything, which was great.
Yeah.
So Phoenix lives in Avalon, the Avalon area, and we did spend a ton of time in the Avalon area because it is just so, it's got all the kinetic energy. And I might have mentioned Avalon was just updated. Like the day we got there was the day after they opened the expanded area. So this was like fresh. Everything smelled new. All the food was fresh, but that's consistent with everything else we experienced in the Netherlands. Phoenix was the only thing, and Merlin's Quest, those two were the only things that were part of this area before we got there, but everything new had been built around them, integrating them. It wasn't like it got pushed off to the side. It was like Phoenix was wrapped around everything that was brand new there. So it felt brand new too. And for us, it was. Literally,
there was like a helix of Phoenix that they just built a tower into. Well, like the helix.
Yeah.
It's like was already there, and they were just like,
oh yeah,
so they dug
the trench out
here and put a ride, and now the helix of Phoenix is gonna go around it, and it's so cool.
And then there was the dark ride. There's only officially one dark ride at Toverland, and it's not even a full complete dark ride. It's just got dark ride elements.
Starts out in a boat.
But amazing, incredible dark ride with sights, smells, all the animatronics you could ever want, hidden underneath the Phoenix facade.
Yeah.
You only get to it by taking the little fantasy boats.
You go into like this cave area. So I think your next.
Yes, oh yeah, you want me to?
Wing coaster. Yeah. So then you go into like this cave area, and it kind of had like reminiscent of like Flight of Passage, like that kind of like earthy
Navi River Journey more than anything.
Well, I was talking specifically about the smell because I think the smells are stronger in Flight of Passage than Navi River Journey.
Yeah, you're right.
A lot of lights, ambience. There was this one room where it was like a library and Merlin's talking, and there's all these like floating books, which was giving me like kind of like Harry Potter vibes.
It's impossible to catch a still image of this experience. It's impossible because you're moving at such a speed, and there's so much going on around you in the dark ride sections that like you can't possibly capture it all in one frame. So I didn't bother. I didn't try. This is not an accurate reflection of what you're going to see in our vlog, but you will see the dark ride in our vlog, and it is truly incredible.
We did it like 4 times.
And
it was almost always a
2 days instead of 5. We did this ride 4 times. We did Phoenix twice. We did this ride 4 times.
Well, it was really fun because we had to do it again because Phoenix did go down for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Phoenix turned back on, we were like, we got to do Merlin's Quest again because we got to watch Phoenix go over us.
It does interact with you as you go through, which is pretty cool.
It was really cool. Exhibit A. So Phoenix.
I should have flipped over while you were saying that.
But. So Phoenix is a really big part of the kinetic energy of the Avalon area. It's really fun to watch. Fun to ride, of course, too. And then you can see beyond it, that kind of tower structure is a new kind of parachuting kind of ride. Called Dragon Watch.
We said we were only going to do like 1 or 2 rides at Avalon because most of them are flat rides. We
ended up doing all of them except one.
They're fun flat rides. Yeah. They're flat rides that don't make you sick. So it was like we did everything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think the only one we didn't do was literally like this little kitty, like kind of carousel looking thing.
I think we would have been cut off on weight limit.
We may not have been able to do that.
One of them, the ride op did say, and he was very polite about it. He was like, please go one at a time because there's a weight limit on this ride, and I'm not sure you're not to be rude, but like I'm not sure you're both gonna.
A parent and a child can ride together.
Yeah.
But 2 adults, they were concerned that we might be a little bit too.
They didn't say no. They just said 1 at a time. So that was fine with us.
Yeah, we were. I'm like, I'll get on by myself.
It was amazing. Yeah. They gave you a little seat packet too.
They did.
Which delayed us about 2 hours in customs.
I couldn't take it in with me to the United States. 1 and 2, but good.
Oh, this is the ride.
Oh yeah, this is the little Merlin.
This is the
garden
this is the weight limit,
tour.
right?
Yeah.
That was fun.
Brand new, and it was so cool because while there is like some fake, silk flowers in it, a lot of it was real.
A lot of
they
it
planted
was
a real garden, and I mean like real onions, herbs, tomatoes, things that were really growing. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
It was.
That was so cool. I say that a lot about things, but really,
and
a lot of things.
I will say this too. This may not be the case by the time we get the vlog out because we're still talking, like 3 weeks out unless we edit really, really quickly. But we were some of the first people to set foot in this new land, which is not even just like internationally speaking. This was like a brand new park that barely anyone had stepped foot in.
It was like a Wednesday, but again, with how close we were to Germany, I really was expecting there to be more like, German school kids.
But people don't know about Toverland.
No,
people don't know that Toverland exists.
The Dutch people that didn't know that Toverland was a thing, so it's a real kind of a hidden gem. I mean, I hope it's. Yes.
Yeah.
Some fake flowers absolutely do make sense. But there were real ones. And they must have planted some that are going to bloom like in stages because I can't imagine they would just let everything die. But I mean, there's so much thought was put into this. I'm sure they're going to, make sure it stays looking nice all year round, or at least as long as the park's
There has
open.
to be a plan. But yeah.
There were, I will say for Toverland, it was funny. There were, I guess because of where we were, in the world, we thought there was a lot of French school groups and things there. So it was kind of interesting. We were like standing in line. I'm like, I'm hearing French
But
right
the thing
now.
of it is, we were informed later, most likely those people speaking French were actually Belgian.
They could have been Belgian.
So, and Belgium is literally like a neighboring country. And we were as close to the Belgian border as we were to the German border.
So it's true. They could have been Belgian as well.
There were a lot more school groups at Toverland than there were at Efteling.
Yeah.
But I think that again, that might have been because of how close we were to the border, more so than because it was a known destination.
Yeah.
It was an international experience by all legal accounts. And it definitely
touts being like an international park, probably because of its location. Because even on like the front entrance of Toverland, we had Dutch, German,
flags,
French, and English. Welcome, bienvenue, welcome, welcome, and welcome. So it was, it definitely felt like, okay, they understand, people.
I'll tell you honestly what it felt like to me. It felt like we had Universal's Islands of Adventure to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Is what it felt like. And that feeling can't be replicated in the US.
The theming level was definitely at least on par with Universal for Islands of Adventure, because I think there's some theming lacking in studios, honestly.
Yeah.
But Islands of Adventure.
Well, it's themed to Hollywood, so it's buildings.
I'd take fantasy and magic and fun over.
I agree.
Real life any day. So the theming was, we really enjoyed the area music loops. We'd be walking through the air and like, this is a bop.
Came this close to buying the soundtrack, but they had them on discs there.
But we were afraid it was going to be region locked.
It was region locked. So I was like, I can't take this home and play it on my CD player.
Yeah. So anyway, we really, really were charmed by this park, and we were expecting to like it. I don't think we were expecting to love it as much as we do. And we would love to go back.
And we had one half rainy day and one truly beautiful day.
Beautiful.
So I honestly, like, our best weather day of the entire trip was probably this day at Toverland. So our Toverland vlog is going to be awesome.
The temperature was perfect. It was a gorgeous day with blue sky, fluffy clouds, a very tolerable temperature.
And I will say too, although I know we're spending a lot of time talking about Avalon because that was the newest, coolest area. And I don't have a ton of not Avalon in this live stream presentation, just because I knew we were going to do so much of that in our own vlog. But there is more there than just Avalon.
Yeah.
This is a park that has I don't know when it was open, to be honest with you, but it feels like it's got a decade's worth of history. So
I would guess it's probably been at least 10 years, but I don't think it's been more than 20.
Yeah, it's fresh. and it's new, but it's again about the size of Hershey Park. It's had some time to expand its property a little bit, and there's new stuff going in. Like when we showed up, there was construction going on beyond the gate
new area
that we don't know what that's going to be. But we did, like, talking to people, it sounded like something new and big was coming next year, the year after. Like they're expanding all the time, and I think given another 5-10 years, like it's gonna be a more well-known park for sure.
Yeah. And it offers.
Oh, snap! Hold on, I'm waiting for Vanessa's or Chad's comment to pop up. 2001, so it's 20 years old. So that's what
I was guessing. I was like, okay, so it's around 22 years old. I was guessing not much older than 20. So it's around the same age as Islands of Adventure. It
feels like it's brand new. Yeah. The entire park.
They really take a really good care of it, and their rides. I'll tell you, like, this is the most I'm gonna diss on American theme parks, and then I'll move on. But
this whole live stream is probably the most we're gonna diss on American.
I just been to Carowinds, which we did a vlog about it. You want to check that out? Please do. But the jankiness of some of the rides at Carowinds, and just like kind of the overall like upkeep on the park, when you compare it, I realize it's an amusement park. It's in America,
and it's not really comparable to European parks.
But
anyway.
Having come from that, and we were expecting at least one ride between Efteling and Toverland to be like, not for me. No, every single one was a hit. Every single one we would
not even just like once. Not for me, but
they
like
were so well taken care of, so smooth, absolute. Like the only one that even freaked me out a little bit was Troy. That one, and that's.
I knew it was what you were gonna say, so I had it ready.
This Woody is a beast.
My God. First you can't see anything about what this ride's going to be like, except you'll from the ground, you'll be like, wow, it's a really long ride. And it is. But everything else.
To Troy being on the ride, front row, don't really know what to expect. If anyone has seen Frozen 2, when Olaf and Anna are about to go over like the edge of the waterfall, and she's like, try not to scream.
Because we're trying to keep quiet in case it's our only POV.
And you hear Olaf going, like, that was me. Like, we looked at this.
Literally, like, we came over the top.
We looked at this
and
steep
you cannot
curve,
see the
and
incline.
I just went, like, I just gasped because I couldn't not say anything, but I didn't want to be like, holy crap, because that's how I actually felt. And then the entire ride was like me trying to go down that first drop.
The lift hill on this thing does not give you a clue as to what kind of incline decline you're in for on the other side. So you hit the top of the lift hill, it banks so sharply and so steeply going downhill that I don't know what miles per hour it reaches, because everything's in kilometers per hour.
I have no idea.
It's insane.
It reaches such speeds.
It's more intense. For those of you who are based in the US and know anything about coasters, it's more intense than El Toro.
Yeah,
at Six Flags Great Adventure. It was so much more intense than El Toro.
And it doesn't go as high as El Toro. It probably technically doesn't go as fast, but oh man.
But it feels like your face is melting off.
I was like, I think my first picture on it, because that was our
good. Chad's here with statistics.
There you go. Honestly, I feel like 54 miles an hour is kind of fast for a Woody, but maybe I don't know anything. It's amazing.
I do have a POV from it, because as we talked about, but it's honestly incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to hold a POV in any kind of like measurable way when you're on a roller coaster. It's just like, even if I had the chest mount, it would have been.
It wasn't rattly. Like, we've been on rattly Woodies. It's just. Oh yeah, we know it's smaller and slower.
Chad, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, it's more intense.
Feels more intense.
It's more intense by a wide margin.
Maybe that day it was just we just rode it the next day, and it was also kicking.
It was more intense the next day after it heated up all day.
It actually, like, by the end of the ride, I took my breath away. Anyway, what I'm trying to get to is every ride we rode was a hit. Even the little dumb kiddie coaster that we thought was going to be dumb and janky.
Hold on.
Was amazing.
I'll go back to the previous slide.
This little train ride, we didn't vlog it because.
Well, it's not that we couldn't vlog it. It's that we didn't vlog it because we weren't shooting a vlog that day. And I was thinking, this is just a kiddie coaster credit that we're getting on to get the credit. We had no idea that it was going to be like so much fun.
Yeah.
So
we got on this ride. We got in the back row because we didn't wanna, it was open and we were like, oh, it's probably fine. It's a kiddie coaster. How forceful can it be or whatever? And it was supposed to be like a 1-lap special around this kind of fun indoor area. So we get on the ride and, we check with the ride up because we've been turned away from kiddie coasters before for being adults. And he indicated, no problem
More
at all.
than
Get on. So we get on, we go up this pretty short, well, things considered lift hill, but I'm pointing things out. I'm excited. And then because we're in the back row and those who are coaster fans or enthusiasts know what happens when the front of the train starts moving and the rest of the train gets whipped over the top.
She was in mid-sentence and she was like, look at, oh!
Yeah. And then because of my reaction, Tim was laughing so hard that I was laughing so hard. I don't think I've ever had more fun on a kid ride ever. We were laughing so hard the entire time. And then as we're approaching the station, because it's a pretty short, 1-lap ride, the kids in the front are yelling, basically the Dutch equivalent of again. Or like, do it again, because there's no one in line, because it's like 10 minutes till park close. And this awesome ride up sends us through again. And we're like, whoa!
Didn't even slow at the station.
Didn't even slow down.
Honestly, I think we picked up more speed every time we went because there was no slowing down.
Again, and we're laughing again. And then we get back to the station and the kids are like, again! And the guy sends us through again. So we got this 3-lap special on this amazing little kiddie coaster. And at the end of our 3 laps, he did get us off the ride because there were some kids in line who were waiting patiently for us to come back from our adventure.
They only joined on the last lap.
Yeah. We got off the ride, turned around and profusely thanked the ride op, who looked like a young adult.
He had fun. He has fun doing what he does.
And we thanked him profusely, and he seemed like he was having a good time and really charmed us for the last 5 minutes of our first 4 hours ever spent in this park. So don't know who makes the ride, but they take it.
Vekoma. That's what Chad said.
Well, he said it looks like Woodstock Express
at Cedar Point, and this are both Vekoma Junior Crystals.
Oh, okay. Well.
And Vekoma does hit or miss work because we don't love the.
I think sometimes with Vekoma, it's more about the maintenance once the ride is made rather than the actual make.
And the update, yeah.
Vekoma makes a lot of rides for Disney, and they usually they hold up pretty nice. If the Six Flags gets a Vekoma ride and Six Flags decides not to take care of it, that's on them. But anyway,
this indoor area, by the way, and I'll back it up one. Yeah, this indoor area was if there was such a thing as a kids area at this park, this would have been it. It was a ginormous indoor, and it had a little passageway, 2 big warehouses that housed all kinds of theming.
Honestly, on the outside looked a little strange, but then you go inside and they were amazing.
So well themed, so atmospheric and immersive. And honestly, I have a ton of footage from inside, so I'm not going to spoil too much. But this was if you've ever seen one of those trampoline parks, this is that times 1,000 plus steroids and theming elements.
Yeah, there's rides.
And that's what it would be.
There's playgrounds. There's giant
fun houses. There's the flume ride. You board the flume ride inside. Expedition Zork, which also weeks before we got there, had just reopened after an extensive refurb. So we were some of the first to experience the new attraction that has additional theming elements. Yeah, everything about our visit to Toverland was amazing. And this, if you're familiar with Sean and Charlotte at Theme Park Worldwide, they're famous at Toverland, at least, for doing this whole Bami Salami thing. Had no idea what that was. We're excited to find out. And I'll tell you what it is. It's a little interactive wizard house where you take a wand at the front, and it's like the Harry Potter wands at Universal, except that you have to click a button instead of just making a wave. But they tell you at the beginning, every time you do something, you say Bami Salami, because those are the magic words. So we're running around trying to find all these trigger points. Bami Salami, Bami Salami, Bami Salami.
Little interactive things happen.
It is fun. I'm not gonna lie, it's fun. So,
excuse me.
Toverland, honestly, wound up being one of our favorite theme parks as well. I wouldn't put it above Efteling, but I would put it on the same tier. It's going to be hard. We're not going to be able to, honestly, because the next time we're going to visit Efteling as part of our planned trips is going to be, it's hard to squeeze Efteling in already. So we're not going to be able to visit Toverland anytime soon, but I will miss it. It's going to be hard to be that close to it.
I'm glad we were, I mean, honestly, maybe the next time, since there is that big expansion going in, maybe we'll keep an eye out for when that opens in the next few years and try to make it back there. But it really, I will say, another kind of like overall point of this trip, I don't know how, because we didn't really think about this, but we really ended up being there during, honestly, not so busy a time, but also a time where majority of like those big rides were open. We only missed one attraction at Efteling. It was the big steam carousel, which is very famous, and we would definitely like to experience it one day. But I'll take that being closed over.
Didn't hurt my trip.
Dream Flight, Baron, anything else that was like on our big to-do list. And Toverland, besides like Phoenix going down for some weather at some point, everything was open, and that brand new area was open. So it was so cool. I don't think we've ever been at a theme park that had just had a new area like that was so unbusy. Because you guys see what happens when, Toontown reopens in Disneyland and the floodgates open. And the other thing is, I feel like there was some level of like, I don't know, I guess respect for the theme
reverence
park.
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked about like sometimes there is trash on the floor because people are garbage sometimes and they leave trash. But like, there weren't busted things off of, ride
People weren't
queues
trying to steal things and take them home. Like
and I think there is some level of like parental responsibility that's put on parents, that because there are some rides where you literally cannot let your child sit by themselves. Like they have to be seated between an adult or two adults or something like that. So at some point we were trying to get on a ride and kids got in the front and adults got in the back, and they were like, no, you have to sit with your kids because they don't want kids trying to reach out and touch stuff, I guess. So I don't know. It's a culture thing. It's a difference in management and things like that, but it works. It works over there. It works pretty well.
People appreciate what they have in these theme parks more so than I think we do in America. Not everyone. I mean, I'm speaking generally, but and there are bad apples in the Netherlands and there are really good apples in the United States. But as a whole, I would say the theme parks are better tended. There's more social responsibility. There's less trash. There's more whimsy and fantasy and willingness to embrace the childlike wonder in your adult self in these Dutch theme parks than I've seen anywhere in the United States. Yeah. So everywhere we went during this trip, and this carries over to the rest of the Netherlands that we visited during our trip as well, not just in the theme parks, but everywhere we went, I truly felt like I was being welcomed and that I was part of the experience instead of an outside observer hoping that I got on the ride today. And that there wasn't some kind of maintenance failure.
And international visits are so common in both of those theme parks. We did not feel really ever like the outsiders. And we did try.
I didn't hear a single American voice besides our own in Toverland, but I heard plenty in Efteling.
There were British people. There
a
were
lot
American
of British people,
visitors.
a lot of Americans.
Oh, sorry, I can't tell this story yet. I have to say.
Okay.
For the boats. The boat tour.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Anyway, there were some things.
Good old Charlie.
We did every once in a while. We would overhear something in, English, and usually it was, never anything bad. But every once in a while, I had to reel it in because it was so funny. We'll touch on that next time. Sorry.
But as far as the theme parks go, I think this is kind of our wrap up because I'm so excited to publish Efteling Day 2 in Toverland because I honestly feel like I've never experienced anything quite like them. I've experienced things kind of like them at Disneyland, but I've never experienced that sensation of being
odd.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
I don't know how this works or how this can continue working.
Why we love Disneyland, Disney parks, and even some Universal parks is tied to nostalgia. It's tied to our childhoods. It's tied to that movie, this show, whatever it is. That's not the case. There's no IPs. I mean, yes, there's fairy tales that we are familiar with, But really, all of these rides, these things are pretty much either purely original concepts or based in like general mythos, like Greek gods or Merlin, King Arthur, things like that. You know, there's not any recognizable characters besides, you know, a dragon, you know, things like that. You're
And,
not looking
like the species, not the character.
yeah, like I don't know. So the fact that we connected so well with these two parks, there's really no way to describe it. Like Tim said, they felt like Efteling especially felt like home. It felt comfortable. It felt cozy and wondrous and whimsical. And you do get that feeling elsewhere in the States, but I do think a lot of it is driven by your, you know, childhood, your nostalgia, whatever.
This is just like your willingness to open yourself up to like being amazed and impressed
and
not trying to pick apart everything or being like, this manufacturer made this coaster. Like everything, obviously it's a theme park with manufacturers. Obviously there's technology that goes into it, but like your brain kind of innately shuts down. I'm just
like,
that.
Nope, it's magic.
Yeah,
it's magical.
You're like, it's so easy to believe that it's magical there. So, and that's true of both Toverland and Efteling. And I honestly, like, I don't think we could possibly spend enough time there in our lifetime at either of those parks. But Efteling in its own way and Toverland in its own way, both so magical and immersive and atmospheric. And I haven't ever felt anything like that anywhere in the United States. So,
and maybe part of it is seeing a new place and experiencing something for the first time, but
too much ice cream, you'll get sick of ice cream. I don't know,
but I feel.
But stroopwafels, hard to get sick of those.
No, we really can't say enough good things, and really, honestly, very little, if to no bad things about those two places. Our time there. Again, if you're looking to travel to the Netherlands and you want any tips or advice or want to pick our brains about something, again,
Instagram,
literally
Facebook, Threads,
love to keep talking about
website has our email contact information. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
And we can't say we're experts because we've only been there once, but I think we learned a lot on this trip.
And that gives us kind of like a frame of reference too, because as first timers, there are mistakes we made that I'm probably not even thinking of right now. We named a couple of them for sure, but like some of them probably have just drifted out of our minds. And if you had to ask me like, well, what about check-in or whatever, like I probably have another 7 stories. So
yeah,
we would be happy to answer any questions that you have, but we wanted to give you kind of at least a snapshot of our time in Efteling and Toverland and how we got from A to B.
And some more thoughts and feelings that don't always get included or spelled out in the vlog.
At the end of the day, that's the point of the live streams, is so that we can connect with you guys a little bit more than we get a chance to in the vlogs, because the vlogs are very one way, but this it's more communal, and we really appreciate everyone kind of joining and listening in and feeding us with Chad with the stats and everyone else with the questions or the comments. We really
I am
appreciate
wearing a Phoenix shirt in case you didn't know.
And I'm wearing Expedition Efteling from Expedition Theme Park Shop.
So I don't think we touched on it this specifically, but obviously, like, I think my top rides at Toverland were the Phoenix coaster and the Merlin's Quest boat ride.
That's my shirt.
Yes, you bought the shirt. I'm stealing it. Oh, one thing I definitely want to mention, because I think we barely talk about this in Efteling, but if you're a pin collector like I am.
We talked about it in the vlog.
Well, Efteling has very few pins. We did find them and bought them. Toverland has 1 pin in the entire park, and it was for Troy.
But Toverland has more shirts.
Yeah.
Efteling is entirely lacking on shirts.
One thing that we think theme park, both Efteling and Toverland, could expand on their merch a little bit more shirts, more pins, definitely. There were mugs, there were things like that. There were some really unique souvenirs in Efteling, I will say, but a lot of them were never going to make it home, either because of customs issues or because of like fragility and just trying to fly with something.
Yeah.
So would love to see more shirts and pins. I did get my 1 Troy pin because I am an avid pin collector. I collect pins from everywhere I go. So I'd love to see more ride pins, more just Toverland.
General Toverland pins.
Almost went home with a mug, but opted not to. I do have a lot of mugs.
You do have a lot
and they take up a lot more space than pins do. That's why I love pins. They travel easy. They're not too fragile. Great. Anyway,
We did, however, get a handful of pins from Amsterdam.
we did.
Which
We did
will
find
be-
pins in Amsterdam.
We will talk a lot about Amsterdam on our next live stream, which instead of being 2 weeks from today is going to be 1 week from today, because we pushed last week's live stream to this Tuesday, which wound up being a
We're
blessing
gonna
in
get back
disguise
on
because we were
our
sick.
schedule.
So we're trying to catch back up to where we normally are. If you're joining us for the first time, I don't think anyone actively watching right now doesn't know this, but anyone who's watching the replay, we do live streams every other Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Next live stream will be part 2 of this trip report because we've already talked 2 hours and we only covered theme parks. Next time we'll be talking more about Amsterdam and our time there, as well as just Dutch culture in general, the things we
learned.
learned and things we picked up, which you kind of touched on a little bit, but we got just so much more to tell you about.
Yeah.
There's a lot that you need to learn, or that you can learn,
We'd
that we
recommend.
learned in a very short period. So we have a lot more to say, and we can't wait to talk more about what we learned on this trip. Until then, guys, I'm going to go ahead and page it over. You thought I was going to wrap up, didn't you?
I did. I was like, oh, I guess we're ending.
Creator Spotlight. So we usually end by highlighting some creators that we follow that may or may not follow us, but that have inspired us to be better creators ourselves. I've been pronouncing this wrong, as it turns out. I know I've been saying it to you as Thrillstatic. It's Thrillstastic.
Oh, that
Works
makes
in
a lot.
Toverland.
There is
So-
an extra S there, isn't it?
There
You
is.
keep saying Thrillstatic.
It's, I don't know.
Thrillstastic.
Thrillstastic. So this individual works at Toverland, which is how we kind of got inside the mind of Toverland to begin with, and was like, Toverland seems like a place we definitely need to go. Really creative, inventive content. He's mostly, I know him primarily from Instagram, but he also has a TikTok, a Twitter, a YouTube channel, and he hosts a podcast, and he travels all over Europe doing theme parks. So while he works at Toverland and has the inside track there, if you're interested at all in European theme parks, follow Thrillstastic for sure, because there's a lot of content he covers that we can't hope to cover. And he has some really insightful viewpoints on a lot of different parks. Haley Wentware is an individual who's, she's actually, this is very interesting to me, she's got an actual, an autistic son. So she views everything. She travels all over the United States primarily, but is looking into international travel as well. And she tries to view everything through the standpoint of, is this something that me and my son can enjoy together? So particularly for the ADA crowd that wants to kind of get a view into...
It's funny you brought this up. It's actually like Disabilities Awareness Month right now, I think. So this is a nice channel to shout out. I didn't realize until you said that her son had autism. So that's
a big part of her Instagram
yeah,
account.
it's really, look, my Instagram is limited. I can barely keep up with my own posts.
She's very, very friendly. We've had a ton of really good conversations with Haley. So follow Haley Wentware on Instagram if you're interested in seeing some of what she does. Coasting Classy on Instagram, a gentleman we just met for the first time when we went for Wildcat's Revenge opening at Hershey Park. Just started an Instagram account for coasters and has already racked up like 200 credits since starting the account. Coaster credits, not like follower credits, but like.
I think it's Instagram's building steam though.
Yeah,
so
it is. So definitely check, especially if you're into roller coasters and coaster enthusiasm. Check out coasting.classy on Instagram for some good content. His pictures are pretty good too.
I like his pictures.
It's a lot. It's a good coaster feed. Yeah.
So it's fun. Good stuff.
And with that, guys, now I'm gonna wrap it up. So we will see you in 1 week for those of you who can attend. Where's the middle of the frame? Between us. 1 week, we will see you for our second part of this trip report. I want to thank everyone who joined tonight for joining. We appreciate it.
And
we love talking with y'all.
Our raspy voices.
Hopefully by next week we will be.
I promise we feel better than we sound.
I'm at like 85%. Yeah. I got a cough, but other than that, I'm fine. So like the voice is just like what the cough has done to me today. But
yeah.
It's been a pleasure sitting and chatting with you all, and hope you enjoyed or learned, new things about Efteling and Toverland. Can't wait to talk more with better, clearer voices in exactly 1 week, when we will get back together for Amsterdam and Dutch culture live stream. Until then, I'm Tim,
I'm Katie.
and every night,
It's a new adventure.
and we will see you again soon.
Dewey!
Dewey!